Hey, this is Kurt the Boat Doctor here. Hey, the sun's out. I don't have a boat to run out today, so I'm going to give you some little tips and grits. Anyway, what I would do, this is when you're running a boat, what to do if the boat's been sitting through the winter, the first run of the day, or maybe even before you go in the ocean. These are some of the tips I would do before you left that dock. And I'll go back to here. Bumpers, G5s is the way to go. I started using those for like the little 18-foot duckwers because they were low-sided. Everybody would go to one side of the boat, and then the damn smaller bumpers would just lift up and scratch your boat. So now these bumpers I can use on from an 18 to a 34-foot, 35-foot, doesn't matter. These will cover it. Then I got a wet bag, dry bag they call them, where I put my life jackets, throat cushion, fire extinguisher. That way if it rains, everything don't get wet. I always carry a portable tank. Now, into the portable tank. I could typically get by with a 3.5 gallon. This is a 6-gallon tank right here. So, if you're out in the ocean, it wouldn't hurt to probably carry a 3.5 gallon tank, just in case maybe you have bad gas or something like that. Normally bad gas you're going to be able to tell before you even leave the dock or get into too much danger. But what I normally do is when I'm running these boats out, and especially if you had a boat sitting for the winter again and the first time using before you head out in the ocean, what I would do is go to the dock. I check to the for me, work smarter not harder. I look for wind. I look for anything like flags, like those little flags up there, to see which way the wind direction is blowing. So like this time of year, if you go over to North Bend, which is that way, then if the wind's coming out of the south, I won't go there. I'll go to Charleston, because if it's going out of the south, the north, the east, the west, I can always get in over at Charleston, no matter on the high tide, low tide. It's not an issue because they pull the docks out over here on the west, on the other side of the bay here, and the North Bend, right, or not Charleston, but Empire, right over the hill. They pull them out, so you're kind of limited to your docks. But I use the wind as my buddy. So like I say, if I had a north wind, I could take it to Charleston, of course, and then I'd let that wind just put it up against the dock. So, and then if it's north wind again, I can take it to North Bend. But if it's coming out of the south, I would probably go to Charleston. So anyway, tanks, a good idea for those, especially for me. I can go out there, they can run it on a shop tank here, these boats, and then what can happen is they don't check the fuel tank itself. So when you get out there, you could have a fuel tank issue. You could have the fuel line going in the tank, or you could have a like anti-siphon valve or something, so it runs good here, but there, and it dies on you. So then that portable tank is what I would have for a backup. And then what you do there to say change tanks out real quick, I carry all this stuff in my pocket. Like I got barbs and stuff. I can just pull out crescent wrenches, you name it. But typically if you pull these cowlings off right up in front, most of the time on that side, there's your fuel filter in there with the gas line. You can follow it that goes inside your boat. So if I had an issue, I'd pull that line off, and then I'd take that portable tank hose and I'd hook it up to that filter, fuel filter in that motor. That's probably sometimes the quickest way to do it, because you can pull that line right off. And then right here, pull this out. I got this fuel line here. So then what I can take this off, take this, hook it into that fuel filter that's inside that motor, pump. Now six gallons typically, if you run it decent, weather permitting, currents and all that. But that should give you an hour of running time out in the ocean. In the bay, you could probably get, if you ran it down about a gallon an hour, you'd get maybe three hours. But I'd say a good hour you could get back on that 3.5 gallons if you ran it right. You're looking at maybe half an hour to an hour. Just depends again how you run it. And that's again, when I run these boats out, I'll run against the current to start with, because if anything's going to happen, it's going to happen within the first 3 minutes or when you give it full gas. And I want to be, say, up the bay so I can drift back. If it does die in 10 to 1, I can make it back to the dock. But if I run all the way up, then if it conks out, I can just drift. That current lets me drift back. So then, like out here, if I go out to Empire out here, the ocean's right over here to the south. So I want to run up the bay before I just take off from the dock. Let's go out. You could have a coil on an inboard, take about 45 minutes to heat up, and they'll shut you down. So that's like the first time of the year, whatever. I always like to run up, then run out to give that motor time to warm up, because I don't want to get in that jetty and be conked out, or the motor's going to die on me. And that again goes back to these fuel tanks. And I got everything here I need. I got my antifreeze, got my funnel, got a gas tank. I'll put this bad boy in here again, and rope. Get about 40-50 foot of rope, 1/2 inch. I would suggest that way you can use one rope to tie off, and I've shown you that in my videos. And yeah, clunk up on this. Got my tags for the year, new tags for Charleston. My fish marker there. I should have a 64 inch, but there's 32, but it works, I guess. But anyway, this boat here, I took out the 2350. I took it out yesterday. It was pretty gnarly in the jetty. This boat just cruised through. It has the new zip wakes. So those, there is a way to set those things up, and I got the one on the pewter color boat, this one here, this color. I took it out. It's the same boat as this 2350. This is only $15,000 cheaper. It's a 2025 versus the new one we got in. It's the same boat, handles the same, but there is a way to set these zip wakes up. So I mean, I got that one inside set up, and I think I set this one up as well to perfection. You could be inside the trough just following down in the hole, and that sucker just no roll on you. But that's the stuff I do, is I set all this stuff up, so when you get here you turn it on and hit a couple buttons. So now back to what I do when I run a boat out just for safety things. The same thing. If you get to the dock, this is what I do. I put the boat into the water, I tie it off, I get in, I trim that motor down, and I go through this with the people when they're here. When I'm hitting that trim button, when I'm lowering this motor, if I hear that drop a decibel when I'm first starting to trim it, that means my battery's getting low. So I trim it until I hear a clud a little bit where it thuds. That's before all the way down I would start it up, because if not, if you tilt that motor all the way down, you have a low battery, you go to turn that switch, it's going to go click click click, where if you would have stopped it prior when you heard that drop, you probably would have had enough juice to start the motor. Now, in other words, also why I like to trim that motor down is when I'm in the water before I go park the truck, because if it gets busy out there, then you're going to run down, you're going to turn that key, and your motor's out of the water, and you're going to run it dry. Now, if your motor's been wet and already fired up, you don't have to worry about the impeller so much. But if you let that boat sit and you went out there and you went and parked the truck, came back, everybody's waiting for you, you just hit the key, you could burn that impeller out pretty dang quick if they're dry. So that's why I trim it down before I park my truck. And also, most of these boats have auto bilge pumps. So what I do is, when you're backing it in, I always look for water coming out the side of the boat, because that way I would know, hey, I forgot my drain plug. And the thing of it's there, the boat's still on the trailer, still hooked up to the winch strap. Then I can just pull it on out and put my plug in and back it up. That's why I like to have the auto bilge pump. But if not, when I put the boat in the water, of course, first thing I do is hit the bilge pump override, make sure there's no water coming out again on the override in case the auto switch was bad. Then I trim that motor down, then I go park the truck. Then when I'm ready, I just go out and hit that key, and I know I got my plug in and everything else. Now, same token, in a lot of boats, they did forget your drain plug. and you did put it in the water, on most of these boats, you could get in through here, take your inspection cap off, reach down, put the plug in. Some boats like North Rivers, they'll put a plate up there now. So, I mean, but then they still have the inspection cap in the back, like this one right here. So you can get in through there and put a plug. Now, sometimes I carry the different size plugs because sometimes the thread won't thread in through the back side on these 1-inch drains. So what I do is I get one of them ones with a flip handle where I put it from the inside and flip it and lock it. So say I was in there and I had to park way down the street, come back, half my boat's full of water, at least I could plug that thing up and hit my bilge pump and pump it out. So that's another thing. Now, here's another important thing before you take away from the dock. You start that motor up, I highly suggest you do a video when you first get the boat. First time you take it out, you take a picture of the motor, the water coming out, then you just take a picture of the motor to see how it's running, if it ain't shaking or it's just sitting there with a little shake, and then noise. Then you just check everything, because you're not going to hear a lot of these, especially if you had an inboard or a two-stroke. These are quieter. So, oh, you're so fascinated how quiet it is. But then the next time you get up, that sounds, I hear a weird noise. You can play that video back and say, oh no, that was normal. Or water flow, you'll say, well, that don't seem like it's as strong as that 8-horse over there. Of course, this has got a bigger block. It's got more passages to go through than your little one. But you can watch that video. Oh no, that's how it was. So that's why I do a video. But if you get out there, these motors typically should, when you fire them up at the dock, they may just have a slight